maybe not the best part because it is the end of UOS. This is the official track summaries, but this is the most exciting piece. We can all look at each other and congratulate yourselves on getting through another UOS. We had lots of sessions spread over the last 3 days, and Mike's giving me some wonderful stats to just share with you. So we've had over 72 sessions. We had more than 4,000 page views on Summit itself, and more than people from more than 120 countries visited summit.ubuntu.com over the last few days, which is amazing. So Ubuntu as a community is truly, truly global. And last but not least, we had more than 339 people actually registering as attending, which is the highest count we've had in the last few years. So way to go, everyone. Thank you to all the presenters for the wonderful sessions that we had. Thanks to you, all you track leads who are joining me for this session. Thanks for your help in help shepherding those tracks and making sure that everything went off without a hitch. So I think we're just going to go in. Actually, David wanted to go first, so I'll be nice. So David Planella, who is representing the community track, and he's going to give us a lovely summary of what's been going on in the community.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Nick. All right, we've had a really, really good community track. It's felt really solid. It's felt, well, it hasn't felt. It has been really well prepared. Everyone who had been working on sessions, who were preparing sessions, were really, really good in terms of getting things ready in preparation for the discussions. So, in summary, what's been happening on the community track. A big topic has been UbuCons and the UbuCon Summit. So preparations continue for the UbuCon Summit in the US in Pasadena in January. That's going to be the 21st and 22nd, co-hosted with Scale. We've got the schedule mostly ready. There are only a few slots left. So if you want to know more, for now, go to the Scale website while we're preparing UbuCon with all of the information. Also, on the topic of UbuCons, there will be an UbuCon Summit in Europe next September. We've got a team of very enthusiastic community members who are working towards the organization of the event. So this is one where I'm particularly excited about. Also, the Ubuntu Free Culture Showcase, driven this time around by Nathan Haynes, again will be run next cycle with more time for preparation and with more and more submissions as well. Donations has been a topic also on the community team roundtables, and we will be looking at ways to increase the visibility and the amount of donation to support our wonderful community projects. Another interesting discussion which just happened the hour before the plenary. It's about meetup.com. We will be offering local teams the opportunity to use meetup.com as a service to increase visibility and participation at their events. This will be an opt-in and something that we will combine with existing local portal service. And we are planning to start going ahead with a pilot for any teams who want to test this, any verified teams who want to verify this together with the local council. Another interesting discussion has been the future plans for the online summit. We will perhaps stress planning sessions less and focus more on presentations, demos, and workshops. And most importantly, we will be putting together a proposal for enhancements to make UbuntuOnAir.com more accessible to teams and for them to be easier to schedule ad hoc public hangouts. Also, in the upcoming days, we'll be doing the groundwork to participate in the Google Coding Initiative as an organization. The registration deadline is next week. So while we won't be committing to participate yet, we will working towards doing that. So stay tuned and to learn more about how this is working in the upcoming days. If you're a team that's interested in participating, be sure to subscribe to the Ubuntu-community-team at list.ubuntu.com mailing list to learn more about this. And also two very exciting broadcasts were happening this week on the community track. The Ubuntu podcast happened as part of the US, and also the French local team did a wonderful job at summarizing the online summit for French speakers. So if you speak French, make sure to find the track on to find the session on the community track. With this, just to say thanks to everyone who's participated in the sessions on the community track and the track leads who have helped making this possible. So over to the next track lead.
Helps if I'm muted. Thanks, David, for the summary. And next up is going to be Alan, who I'm assured this is the real, true Alan Pope here. I know there's been a lot of clones running around on IRC this week, but this is the real deal. And he's going to talk a little bit about what's been going on in the app development world.
Hello. So the app and scope development track on Tuesday started off with a great session from Christian Duan about how to write your first Ubuntu app with QML. Good place to get started if you want to write apps for Ubuntu phone. We then moved on to a session about the music app, where we planned for the short term what we're going to do with the music app, and also the results of a recent Google Plus poll that we put out asking people what they wanted us to work on, and the results were surprising in a BuzzFeed style. Click through to find out. We then had a weather app planning session where we discussed plans for a notification system to give you notifications in the weather app when there's adverse weather conditions nearby, or just to let you know what the weather's like that day, whether to take an umbrella or not. We also talked about natural language weather reports and map and radar displays. I must apologise if you hear fireworks. It's because it's Guy Fawkes Night here in the UK, where we celebrate people by burning them.
Remember.
Yes. There was then a developer documentation health check where we looked at new strategies to improve our documentation, such as improving the discoverability of the existing content and the community-made resources, and refining the user journeys and adding video tutorials. Wednesday kicked off with a Scopes roundtable, where there was a presentation of new dynamic previews in Scopes and improving scope refreshing to make it feel seamless, so that you don't get that refreshing redrawing the whole screen with Scopes. That's good. Looked a little at the filter API and filter widgets, some more aggressive caching, so we're not having to go online to always get content, and there was an announcement there about a Scopes contest coming soon, so you'll find out more about that from the Scopes roundtable. It was a community Core Apps QA session, which covered the new Core Apps Jenkins, which is used for building and testing the Core Apps whenever changes are made, and discussed the resources available to app developers for testing their applications. Next we had a Deco planning session. Deco is the email client on the phone. Had a session about that, detailed the current outstanding tasks for landing Deco as a default email client on the phone, and we discussed how we'll deliver a converged version of Deco to beta users and a stable mail client to more conservative users via the mail app on the phone. Then there was a session about taking advantage of online accounts, presentation of the simplified online accounts API. There were some feature requests in there, support for C++ account plugins and not just QML. There was a bit of a discussion there. And then there was a session about some new feature we're landing, which is the in-app purchases API for Ubuntu, which allows developers of phone apps to get paid when users decide to purchase items within their apps. We're starting a pilot with a few developers before we open this to a wider developer audience. Next up on Thursday, there was an app design roundtable. James from the design team gave a brief talk about some of what the design team were doing for a couple of the core apps. Mostly we talked a little bit about Deco, and it was a kind of precursor to a talk he was giving a little later on. Then Kevin Fader from the community demonstrated his Ubuntu UI toolkit, Inkscape, and printable tools. That was really, really cool. And if you're interested in improving the look and feel of your apps, or designing new apps, or creating a new icon for your app, then that's certainly worth viewing, the second half of that video. There was also an introduction to Scope session today, which explained what scopes are and how they work, and a walkthrough of the architecture and how you can make your own scopes using C++, Go, or JavaScript. Can you hear that? No.
Oh yeah.
This is our July the whatever it is for you guys. Then there was a section on writing HTML5 apps, which is a recurring session to introduce developers to the set of web technologies available on Ubuntu to develop applications. There was an update there about the web app container features, online web app generator, and alternative navigation UX from Olga, and some thoughts about React.js and React Native. And I think I'm done from the app and scope track. Excellently timed firework there.
Yes, thank you, Alan, and thank you for the fireworks and bottle rockets. Always appreciate it. The Scopes team appreciates their little shout out all the way from the UK. All right, next up we have Mr. Castro, and he's going to be talking about cloud server and all things fun on Ubuntu.
Hello, I'm George Castro. I'll be talking about two things today. Ubuntu Cloud and Server, which is the OS and OpenStack and stuff, and of course the Juju bits, which is what you use to deploy workloads on top of the cloud. So I'm not on the Ubuntu Server and Cloud team, so I'm speaking on behalf of John Grimm, so hopefully I won't butcher it too much. But on Tuesday they talked about apt install OpenStack was the title for the session, but that's basically a terminal-based UI for installing OpenStack. If you haven't seen this before, all this really does is leverage the existing Juju and Juju charms that we use to deploy OpenStack. And as of last week, as part of the OpenStack Developer Summit, we actually demoed doing full OpenStack, all in containers, like on your laptop with real LXD containers, all nice and isolated. Beautiful. It was awesome. For guys like us, that means no more DevStack. Yay, we can just deploy OpenStack in a kind of more how you would do it in production, so that's really great. They also demoed MAS, which is up to a new version 1.19. For those of you that don't know what MAS is, that's Metal as a Service. I like to say it's like adding an API to a rack of servers, and then you can do stuff, get machines and do that. Obviously, that's a simplistic explanation, so you should definitely check out those videos. The new UI stuff that they're doing on MAS 1.9 is really, really sweet, so I challenge you to go check it out. Especially the new networking stuff, you can create VLANs, subnets, you can do all sorts of stuff right in the UI. And of course, MAS has an API, command line tool, so you could drive MAS, you can also drive Juju with whatever way you want, or you could use the GUI and CLI tools that we give you. That's all pretty awesome. So the MySQL talk, unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend that one because it was a conflicting session, but the TLDR there is we're talking with all of the people who make MySQL variants, including Oracle, Percona, MariaDB, on how best to give people the MySQL variant that they want. The big takeaway from that is Robbie Basic will be pushing out his call for ideas on the Ubuntu Server mailing list. So if you really care about MySQL and its variants, definitely pay attention for that list. We're asking for feedback, especially as this cycle's an LTS for us, so that's an important one for us. And then Stefan obviously showed LXD, which is containers for Ubuntu Server. Really not much to say. It's awesome. It's incredible. If you're using VMs right now, there's a lot of use cases where you could just one-to-one swap out KVM for LXD and get a huge performance benefit. And of course, for us, this is all about getting as many containers density on one machine as possible, right? So obviously, for people who run OpenStacks and things like that, this is a very important feature that Canonical's been sponsoring work on upstream, and we're really proud of it. It's going to be really tight and clean. It's just awesome. I don't really have enough nice things to say about LXD. So that kind of covers traditional Ubuntu Server and Cloud. Lots of good stuff happening there. Of course, the usual suspects you'll get in every Ubuntu release, the latest. You've got the latest OpenStack, all easily installable. and a nice roadmap of support for porting all the new OpenStacks to the older LTS releases as well. No changes there, just typical good stuff you've come to expect from us. On the Juju front, we did nothing but workshops because there's not much planning for us to do, to really explain. So we just basically did a bunch of workshops where we showed off a bunch of stuff. So we showed off big data solutions that we'd like to see people banging on for production. The Kubernetes cluster work is really coming in on nicely. We expect that to be production ready as far as the deployment goes for 1604, which I guess is a cool announcement. Obviously, Kubernetes just had its 1.0 the other day. It's up to you to decide whether Kubernetes is production ready for you, but the deployment method and the charms and everything will be solid and ready to go. It's reusing upstream's Docker work and everything. It's really tight, really nice, so I challenge people to try that. Something that people might not be aware of that I'm going to use this avenue to announce is if you write a Juju charm, as long as you open source it, we will pay for your cloud credentials. So you can go to developer.juju.solutions, click that you're interested, tell us what charm, what piece of software you want to bring to the cloud. We'll mail you Amazon credentials, and then you can go and create instances and do a bunch of development stuff on us, and I pay the bill. Not me personally, but it's pretty awesome. Juju also got a new website that went live today. That's just jujucharms.com. You should check it out. It's pretty great. And the last bit is, as part of us attending FOSDEM and Config Management Camp, we'll be running a Juju Charmer Summit. So a bunch of us will go for the weekend to Brussels. Then we're moving to Ghent to do Config Management Camp, and the Juju Charmer Summit, which will actually be co-located with Config Management Camp. This is the place to go for community config management tools. So we'll have guys there from Puppet, Ansible, Chef, Salt, and we'll be running our summit there as well. It's going to be a really good time. If you're really looking for getting to the bleeding edge of what it takes to do automation on clouds, this is the place to be. So you can check out that. Our website is summit.juju.solutions, and Config Management Camp is really horrible to say because it's spelled a certain way, so I'll just add that in the show notes. So if no one has any questions for me, that's Ubuntu Cloud Server and Juju for 1604. Sorry, I talked so fast.
Well done, George.
Well done, George. I was just mentioning IRC, the LXD is really cool, and they have a super sweet live demo on the site. So if you go to linuxcontainers.org, you'll see there's an LXD demo. Hit the little button.
Yeah.
Try it. It's really, really slick.
One thing I should mention, is you don't have to move to 1604 to try LXD. There is a stable PPA. I've got it on all my machines. Containers for a lot of use cases is almost a no-brainer. So if you're using this kind of stuff, LXD is just the way to go. It's nice. The command line interface is nice and clean, and those guys do a really good job documenting and helping people out. So if you're using VMs at work or anything like that, with this LTS cycle coming up, you should really put LXD on the list of technologies that you want to check out. So.
All right. Next up, we have the infamous Michael Hall, who's going to be talking about all things Convergence. So this is one of the most exciting tracks for end users, as Convergence has been a story that's been sort of a long time coming, and we're edging closer and closer and closer to seeing some of these realities. So I'm sure Mike's going to share some of the cool stuff and some of the sessions that you'll want to go back and check out.
Right. So this session has combined both the traditional desktop track and the phone track into one, and also the additional focus of how the two overlap. So we started out the day on Tuesday with the 1604 desktop QA plan, where they discussed some ways to enhance the image testing and reduce the amount of manual testing that they're doing. Part of that was targeting Ubiquity for tests, which is the desktop installer, doing some additional gating on images based on the results of the tests, and also adding some test cases to the live sessions. After that, we had Kubuntu Xenio planning, so that's Kubuntu 1604. This was a really great session. Anybody who's interested in Kubuntu should go back and watch that. It ended up running like 45 minutes past the end of the allotted time, so it's a good thing that was at the end of the day. But they discussed resources for their CI infrastructure, which they've been working heavily on both in Kubuntu and in upstream Debian. So they've got some plans on moving that to some different hosts to keep it running. A lot of discussion on moving their documentation back under the kubuntu.org website. Some of it had been moved into KDE's wiki. They want to bring all that back under the one banner and get it unified. And also improving the amount of documentation that they have for new contributors who want to get started contributing to Kubuntu. They're going to be working on a new ISO image that's going to contain more localization and translation packages, so you can get Kubuntu in your own native language wherever you're at. So that's really cool. There are some concerns about size and additional testing requirements on that, but that's moving forward. They're looking at integrating KDE Plasma 5.5 into Kubuntu for 16.04, and planning on doing a lot more on-air planning and presentations to help get the word out about the things that they're doing and get people excited, get people involved. And then finally, they're going to work on boosting the community bug triaging that they're doing. They've got a lot of bugs that are in a new state and just need somebody to look over and triage them. So that's a good way to get involved also. You don't have to be a developer or overly technical to do that. So that was Tuesday. On Wednesday, we had a session on Qt for 16.04. Qt's now used by both Unity 8 desktop as well as KDE Plasma desktop, so it's an important topic for us to get right and get those two groups in sync. So they are currently planning on, or they're currently working on Qt 5.5. There's a PPA that's got 5.5.1 in it for Unity 8 and KDE testers to start trying, but they're also eyeing Qt 5.6, which is supposed to be released in December, I believe, and that's going to be the first LTS release of Qt. So it will hopefully line up nicely to go into 16.04. They're keeping an eye on that. It's going to depend on when it becomes stable and when it gets released. There's also going to be some work to try and keep Qt updated in Debian also, so that Debian and Ubuntu and Kubuntu all have the same version of Qt, or at least very close to it. Later on, we had desktop planning, the developer desktop planning. So that's the traditional deb package-based Unity 7 desktop. Some of the big news from that was that Software Center is going to be replaced with GNOME software and some additional plugins to that to make it work with our Ubuntu App Store backend. In addition to that, they're also looking to support Snappy apps on the Unity 7 desktop. So this is a big ask for them. There's a lot of work involved in that, but they're moving full steam ahead, and that would really open the gates to a lot of new, really cool and interesting things coming to our traditional desktop. On top of that, there's a lot of triaging and bug fixing going on in Unity 7, in Compiz, and in Nux to continue stabilizing that platform, which is already gotten to a really good level. There's going to be dropping some more GTK patches wherever possible. There's some designs right now working on how to integrate the GNOME app menus and header bar into Unity 7 to make it look nice without us having to carry a bunch of patches and GTK on that. So that'll free up a lot of their resources if we can do that. They've decided to drop Bracera, which is the CD burning software, as well as Empathy, the IM client, from the default install. But they are also adding in the new GNOME Calendar app to the default install. So all of those have just been decided. The changes haven't taken effect yet, but I think they will in the next week or so in 16.04's daily images. And then they've continued work on dropping Python 2 from the default install in favor of just Python 3. Getting rid of the Software Center is going to really make that a lot easier to do. All right, so that was for the traditional desktop. We also had a session on running traditional desktop apps inside the new Ubuntu Personal, which is Unity 8 and Mir based. So Stephen Webb gave a presentation on some really interesting technology he's working on to make that happen, called Libertine. It's going to be a way to containerize X11 deb packaged apps inside of a Mir Snappy environment. So there's some really cool stuff there, a lot of technical hurdles to overcome, a lot of work there. But it does offer a lot of promise on being able to continue using all of the same apps you're used to using, even if they don't use something that will run natively on Mir and can be turned into a Snap package. And then we finished Wednesday with a session on developing Unity 8. Albert, TSG something on IRC, gave a nice session going over all of the Unity 8 code, where it lives, how to get it, how to build it, what all the different parts do. so that people who want to get involved can start learning the code, hacking on it, and contributing some stuff back to Unity 8. We've already had one guy on Google Plus who's tweaking the Windows switcher and post some videos and some screenshots of that, and looks really neat. So if you have any interest at all in doing Unity 8 development, QML is really, really easy to get started with. Go back and watch that session, and he'll explain to you how to do that. Today we kicked off with a Convergence Q&A with Kevin Gunn and Pat McGowan. We had a lot of really good questions in there. I couldn't really summarize all the questions, so just go back and watch the video. It's definitely worth it. Some of the highlights, though, were there was a lot of questions about Convergence support and the existing BQ and Meizu phones. They don't have the physical capability to do HDMI out, so you're not going to be able to plug it into a slim port or MHL adapter and connect it to your monitor. But they are looking at different wireless display technologies that we can use so that you can still get a converged experience out of those devices, even the ones that don't have the hardware capability to do it through a port. There was discussion about how we're going to change the life cycle for desktops as opposed to phones, and some of the benefits and trade-offs that we have to make on that. There was some talk about Ubuntu for Android. A lot of people wanted to know what happened to it, so they both answered some of the history of Ubuntu for Android and how that got us to where we are now with a fully converged Ubuntu experience, all on the same platform. And then finally, they talked a little bit about our new syncing framework called Buteo, which is already being used for contacts and I think calendar sync on the daily images of the phones. I don't know if it's on the latest OTA, but that'll also open up some opportunities for some additional syncing to happen in the future.
Mike, it does contacts but not calendar yet. Calendar's for the future.
After that, we had a session on app convergence where we had Florian and Olivier talking about some of the apps that we've already been adding convergence features to. So they highlighted the web browser app as well as the contacts app. Olivia gave a really nice presentation of all the different convergence features that are already working in the web browser app, showing it off in desktop use and then shrinking it down to a smaller size and showing you what changes to make it work better in that form factor and size. And Florian did the same with the Contacts app, and then also went and demonstrated a lot of the work going into the SDK components to make them work better in the desktop environment. There's some new components that were specifically designed to enable this, and also a lot of improvements to existing components to make them work better with a mouse and a keyboard. So go back, and if you're an app developer, this is a good session to watch to see what's available there. And then interestingly, they also gave us a hint that we might be getting Flash support in the Ubuntu web browser. They're looking at working already on integrating Pepper Flash from Chrome into our browser. So that's really cool and interesting thing I hadn't heard of yet. After that, we had James from the design team on. Hope you mentioned this earlier. He was giving a more general discussion about design concerns and what to think about as an app developer to make your app converge between different form factors. One of the big takeaways from that is don't think about phone and tablet and desktop. Think about staged and windowed mode, because you're going to have a lot of devices in the near future that it's really going to be hard to define, as just a phone or just a tablet. There's going to be a lot of crossover. So think more about, is it going to be staged where everything, it's one app window at a time, or is it going to be windowed like on a desktop? Think about things like what kind of input you're going to have. Is it going to be touch? Is it going to be mouse pointer? Are you going to have a keyboard? You'll be able to adapt your app based on those to make it work really well, regardless of the kind of device that the user has. He also mentioned that they're getting ready for a really big overhaul of the SDK. Like I said, Florian showed off some of the changes that are already there. A lot more changes coming in to make the SDK a really powerful desktop UI toolkit, in addition to being a really powerful phone and tablet UI toolkit. And then just before this, we had one of the KDE Plasma developers on, who was giving a summary of the work that's gone into Plasma Mobile, which is the KDE GUI environment for mobile phones. I unfortunately wasn't in that, so I don't really know too much about what he showed off. But if you're interested in Plasma Mobile or converged environments other than Unity, that's definitely worth going and checking out. And that is the end of the Convergence track summary.
Thanks, Mike. Next up, we have Steve, who's going to be talking about Core, and that includes all things Snappy as well. So I'm sure it has some interesting things to talk about in those worlds.
That's right. So yeah, on the Core track, it should come as no surprise to anybody who's followed the trajectory of Ubuntu development over the past year. There's been a lot of discussions about Snappy this week on this Core track. On Tuesday, we had sessions first to talk about Snappy frameworks, creating more of them. There were good discussions about the general definition and understanding of what a framework is, what can be a framework, what should be an app, and what other options there are. That session saw some good input from many of the customers of Snappy. Things are looking good for Snappy Ubuntu Core being the basis of Ubuntu's future, and among frameworks we should see landing soon is a Bluetooth and a connectivity framework based on Network Manager. Also on Tuesday, there was a session about Snap packages for phone and desktop apps. Kyle Fazzari and Alejandro Cura presented their analysis on what it would take to convert the phone from clicks to snaps. A detailed discussion of a plan ensued and will be ongoing for the next weeks. And then yesterday, we had some non-Snappy sessions occupying the bulk of the schedule. The Node.js and libv8 for 1604 discussion. We are seeing lots more software now build depending on the JavaScript ecosystem, mostly as build dependencies for documentation. So there's a trend of increasing dependencies on these, but we don't really have a good long-term security support statement on them. So we had some discussions there about how to allow that as a build dependency in main, whether that would be security supported or not. The consensus is that we are going to look at the archive reorg question proposal from a few years ago about changing the definitions and allowing those to be used as build dependencies without committing ourselves to long-term security support. The next session of the day was a Python 3 only on the images session. We discussed and assigned work items Python 2 for the desktop, server, and cloud images. This dovetails with the comments about possible changes this cycle to Software Center. But we're very close to removing Python 2 from both the server and cloud images. There were, in fact, some last-minute regressions in the seeds that caused us to miss that milestone for 1510, but we'll make sure we get there for 1604. And we also have a good roadmap for the removal of Python 2 from the desktop. And we've even seen some progress towards that just this week in the aftermath of that session. Off the official images. There was also a brief discussion about what will happen to user bin Python, and the answer to that is nothing will happen to user bin Python, and how scripts that need to run on either Python 2 or Python 3 systems would work from Precise through to Xenial. We did not reach a conclusion there, but it was a good discussion. And if you're interested in that topic, you are encouraged to go back and watch that video and look at the notes. Last session of the day yesterday was about FE Capsule and fallback. FE Capsule support is a new standard for providing firmware updates that doesn't require booting into a third-party OS in order to apply firmware updates to your systems. And so we've started to define the story for how we will support that through UEFI in. And today we're back on the Snappy again with several more Snappy sessions. One was a session called Your Feedback Counts, the Snappy Onboarding Experience. There was lots of great feedback from all kinds of developer audiences of Ubuntu Core, and the feedback will be factored into our documentation and onboarding plans. Next up was a Snappy Developer Community Resources session. We are already using a number of social media and support channels for Snappy, so it was time to review them and bring some more structure to them. We also decided which presentation workshop materials we want to provide enthusiasts with so that they can represent Snappy at conferences, universities, lug meetings, and so on out there. And finally, we had the Porting Popular Apps / Software to Snappy session, which saw us putting together a nice list of apps which are often used on Raspberry Pis and other devices. And this should help us start a conversation on the mailing list about how we can collaborate to bring the most interesting these applications to Snappy as well. And that was it for the core track this week.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. And finally, we have our final track to cover, which is the show and tell track. And of course, this is my favorite at every UOS. And but we have the illustrious David Callé to talk us through what sort of cool and interesting demos were shown and what was presented as part of the show and tell track.
Hi. So yeah, this show and tell track was really exciting. We had a lot of great talk and demos. On Tuesday, we started with the Snappy unit testing efforts. So if you are interested in testing and look at how Snappy is deeply tested, you can have a look at the session and give a try, run this test locally and on real hardware, of course. Then we had a fantastic Convergence demo from Michael Zanetti, who hooked up a Nexus 4 to a TV. It was great to see Convergence in action. There was a lot of questions. It was very interesting. Then we had a Snappy clinic, specifically around turning ROS apps into Snappy apps. So if you're into robotics, this is a really great session to watch. We got some good feedback from ROS users, and we will really continue the dialogue with them because it was an excellent session. Then we had a demo of Jobsen. Jobsen is a Juju plugin that allows network partitions modeling. That means you can test how your app handles network failures and these kind of things. It was a very technical session, so if you're into that sort of things, have a look at it. On Wednesday, we got the SDK Q&A. So there is a new SDK package coming. The difference with the current one is that all the dependencies are bundled in the package. That means that you will be able to target any framework regardless of the Ubuntu version you are running. So if you are on 14.04 LTS, you will be able to target the latest frameworks on the phone. We also had a show-off of the SDK 1.3 components. There was a lot of changes, as I think it was Mike who talked about it earlier. So that's a lot of components that allow many input devices, touch and mouse, and have a look at it. It's really cool. We also had the Ubuntu Pi flavor maker. So the demo was about creating Raspberry Pi 2 images for your favorite Ubuntu flavors using the Bootstrap. There are images for this available on ubuntumate.org, and there was also a call for help. So if you're into that sort of things, have a look at it. Then on Thursday, Harald Sitter from the Ubuntu community demonstrated the continuous integration efforts around Ubuntu and how they use Launchpad to produce builds into PPAs. After that, they performed many checks and ensure just the quality of the package. So it was a really nice talk if you're into quality. Then still around quality, we got an history of user testing on the phone and automated testing on the phone. The QA team shared how they test the location, telephony, GPS, and all the components user might just use daily. There also has been a lot of info on how to write tests and how to run them and how to have a collaborative platform for tests. Oh, then there was my favorite session, probably. It was the JavaScript scopes hands-on. So Alex Abreu and Marcus Tomlinson, which are respectively from the Unity API and Web Apps team, have presented the new JavaScript binding for scopes with Node.js integration, so you can take advantage of its vast library and modules. You basically just install NPM packages in your scope. It's really cool. There was also a session on Minecraft. Ryan from Minecraft, you know Minecraft, it's this IA unit that was a lot in the headlines recently, has demonstrated it and talked about Unity 8 integration. There was also a session around game development on the phone. So Mike Sheldon demonstrated how he was writing games for Ubuntu using Bacon today. And he also showed how to package a game with Play Canvas. Play Canvas is a framework in QML for writing games, and well, Ubuntu support is possible, and you should really give it a try. And that's it for the show and tell session.
Awesome. And I think I thought Poppy was going to give us some fireworks to end the whole thing.
Well,
But,
I was hoping so, but it turns out the fireworks came just as David mentioned the JavaScript scopes, which I thought was most appropriate.
Yes, it's official. We understand. They love their scopes. All right.
Yeah.
No worries. Either way, again, thanks to everyone who took part in this UOS, and thanks to all the session presenters, and to all of you, of course, for showing up, hanging out with us, and participating in the sessions. And this is let's look forward to a good LTS and a wonderful cycle for our next 1604. So, with that, eat your vegetables, drink, be merry, celebrate, enjoy yourselves, and let's go do some awesome work.
Is there an Ubuntu drinking summit after this? Right after?
Can be.
I know everyone's thinking it.
The beer tasting session, I think.
Yes, I think that's correct.
At least there's no danger of us getting Uber flu.
There's going to be a fireworks and beer session.
All right. Everyone take care. Have a happy LTS.
Good work, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.